certainly do.
You have it wrong.
What? Yes, you do have to cook
I
tomorrow.
have to work tonight and I have to work tomorrow. And there's no food for Sunday.
I know that.
So, can you cook?
I'm off tomorrow. It's Friday.
Tomorrow's not Friday, tomorrow's Thursday.
Oh,
You're on duty.
okay.
I'm gonna see if I can quickly do something after
I
class.
thought I could fool you. There is something you have to do after class.
I'm gonna make cauliflower quick in the oven.
You can do sweet potato and spinach. It's quick. Everyone's listening. It's quiet in here. What is he whispering about?
It says,
And now, Ujjaya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda ji commences tonight's satsang with a Sanskrit peace chant.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda and Rajneesh.
Our song tonight is called O Holy Mother, Touch Me. Holy Mother, touch me. It is of you I dream, riding on a swan with snowy robe, with jasmine flowers on the you play a divine melody. Oh, I'm Saraswati Namaha. Oh, I'm Saraswati I wander in this world. Without you, the rose will not bloom. I stand in the frozen land of time. My heart is sad. Remove my folly. The sun and stars give me no rapture. Why are you ever hidden from my sight? Capture me with your music of wisdom. Oh, let me look into the beauty of your eyes. I adore you, oh Mother with shining jewel, the illusion of deserts and conceals you. Like a white mist of morning, you bestow upon me that freedom of the wind. If I could only see your golden smile, let me keep your footprints in my heart. I must shine like the moon your grace. Om Saraswati Namaha. Om Saraswati Namaha. We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda in Miami, Florida. Today is January the 13th, 2021, Wednesday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on the Yoga Vasistha. This is series 2018, class number 306. And now Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Nirvana Prakarana, Upsham Prakarana, and we continue with section 47. Brahman as Chidghana. Chidghana means absolute consciousness. Given a very ordinary simile, think of a rock, but not this normal scientific rock. It is porous. No matter how rocky it has pores. But think of that type of rock. There are no pores in it. Absolute mass. Pure consciousness has no room for any illusion within it. The sky has no room for holding on to clouds. Screen has no room for holding on to projections. Rope has no room for holding on to this neck. So that understanding must develop, that Brahman is absolutely untouched by the world process and is indivisible, immutable, absolute. And that is what you are essentially. The gross objects are nothing but illusory manifestations of the subtle elements. These subtle elements are projections of the citta. And the citta is transformed into a state of pure consciousness by the force of inquiry and meditation. This is called Laya Chintan. Vichar movement has many aspects. This aspect is allow your mind to understand that attaining Brahman is not a task, is not something that Brahman has to be created. In everything you have attained is created by your karma. Brahman is not a product of karma. Brahman is the reality, absolute reality. Think of your cloth you wear. First stage, the type of cloth, the type of fashion in it. Second stage, it is nothing but threads. In order to see that it is threads, you don't have to tear it up. Just leave it. Understand. It's made up of threads. Threads are made up of fibers. If you have cotton cloth, then cotton fibers. Cotton fibers come from the earth element that has been sucked in by the tree, cotton tree, and has brought it. Earth element is sustained by water element. Water element sustained by fire. These are very subtle points. Fire by air by akasha. These are subtle elements. They are not described as names are given which you are aware of these elements. Subtle elements are those ingredients that go to compose your mental movement. If you are angry, it is fire. You are loving, water is oozing out. If you are excited, the wind is caught by wind. So, these are the subtle points behind the description of subtle elements. And behind all these subtle elements, the role of chitta vrittis, thought waves. And thought waves are nothing but chitta. And chitta is nothing but chit, pure awareness. All at the same time. It's not, you have to wait for things to happen. You don't tear up your cloth to know it is made up of fibers or threads. But you simply allow your mind to understand what is real. Who am I? Starting with your body. But body is nothing but pranas. Pranas is nothing but higher mental energy. Mental energy is nothing but cosmic energy. Again, the sequence is not to be adopted like pure mathematics. Whichever way your mind can understand. The end result is what's needed. End result is Brahman. All is Brahman. If you forgot the sequence, forget about it. The mind is transformed into a state of pure consciousness by the force of inquiry and meditation. Thus, it is essentially pure consciousness which expresses itself in the form of the world process. And it does this without losing its intrinsic majesty, immutability, and eternal glory. So, the divine essential nature that remains completely, absolutely pure, untouched, untainted. You enter into dream and go through a lot of experiences, but your bed remains untouched by all your experiences that go on in your dream. I'm talking about your waking consciousness. In the indistinct fluid of an egg of a peahen, the multicolored splendor of the peacock feather exists in a latent form. In the same way, in the absolute unity of consciousness lies the multicolored splendor of the world process. The world arises from Brahman, merges in Brahman. The multicolored expression of the world process continues to be sustained by Brahman. No matter how long you wander in your dream, or you may go from dream to another dream, dream within dream. Reality is on waking, you went nowhere. All your wanderings were in illusion. But just as the waters of a mirage do not wet the desert, or the projections of a cinema show do not affect the screen, these are all to help your vichar, how to allow your understanding about the essential nature. So, first point, think of mirage. It's absolutely non-existent, but one can be easily trapped. The illustrations of the deer go after quenching thirst from mirage water, and they end up all dead. Similarly, all souls, jivas, are going after the illusion that they will find fulfillment in the world of time and space. But this whole movement is a mirage movement. You have seen countless souls going through the world process, and no one stays alive. Everyone is subject to mortality. Then what happens to all that you have attained? Of course, they go to your people who inherited your wealth. But those people also, they pass on. In other words, all that you have inherited is transient, illusions, like the waters of mirage. Nothing exists. So in your meditative process, allow your mind to work upon it. But while working upon it, don't let emptiness or sadness invade your mind. When you come to realize nothing of the dream exists, it's a good news. It will wake you up. Getting out of an illusion is a joyous experience. Illusion, it may seem quite entertaining. Losing the illusions may seem to be a very sad development. But this is a childish language, kindergarten stage. Your mind should feel extremely joyous when you move from illusion to reality. It's not a question of you should feel, you do feel if you move away from illusion to reality, from dream to waking. Second point, or the projections of a cinema show do not affect the screen, or the diverse experiences of dream do not distort the consciousness of a person, or the various names and forms of ornaments do not change the base metal of gold. Think of golden ornaments, hundreds of them with different names, forms, and different ways you wear them. Differences are superimposed upon the substance gold. Gold doesn't change. The differences are mental concepts. Led by mental concepts, you view gold seems to disappear and you go after the ornaments. How does it happen? You can figure that out. Someone gave you a golden ring, not in this. Someone was your great-great-grandmother or father. And now you continue to hold on to that ring, constantly reminding yourself of all the associations, how the ring has passed through so many hands. And there are good story behind it, there is tragic story behind it. How the ring was lost and you didn't know where it was. You went into a lake, took bath, and dropped the ring. You missed it for years. Went to the same lake. Miracle happened. And you found the ring. Now, it rang the bell in your mind. It became a bigger story. But behind all that is a little piece of gold. So, your mind goes through countless distracted thoughts dealing with the world. But all the world and multiplicity of names and forms are nothing but the gold, pure consciousness. That's the gold. And all the concepts do not affect the gold. Similarly, all the concepts of your mind do not affect the consciousness. Your relative consciousness is affected, but not the consciousness. Section 48. The innermost self and Brahman are identical. Enlightened sages continue to enjoy the bliss of Brahman abiding in the essential nature of the self. So when you go after the inquiry, who am I? And we're led by great Mahavakyas, Prajnanam Brahma, pure awareness is Brahman. It is such a simple answer. Who am I? Awareness. It is a play of awareness. If you are not aware, the question, who is there to ask the question? But when you try to understand awareness, your mind goes into deeper waters. Awareness, pure awareness, like a lake. All the vrittis are creating reflections in a lake. So reflections are creating an illusory world of multiplicity, sustained by the lake of pure consciousness. That pure consciousness never goes away. And that is what you are. So just to remind you of the four Mahavakyas, Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is pure consciousness. Tattvamasi. This is Upadesh is given to aspirant by the Guru. Thou art that. You are that Brahman. And the disciple meditates on Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. And ends up realizing I am Atma Brahman. This very self is Brahman, the Absolute. Enlightened sages have mastered their senses and transcended their minds. A yogi who has ascended the heights of wisdom continues to maintain the flow of mind to Brahman. This attainment of I am Brahman has steps. 7 steps of wisdom, Jnana Bhumikas. Shubhecha, aspiration. The moment the aspiration, the spiritual unrest develops regarding your own identity. Who am I? Am I the miserable wretch? Or let me stretch my imagination. Very fortunate. Or many variable experiences. And coming to the climax of that movement, which are revelation. I am pure awareness. I am Atma Brahman. So first stage is aspiration. A kind of appetite has developed, spiritual appetite. And just like when you are very hungry, you are, every time you smell something from the kitchen, you get excited. When you have aspiration, any time there is a talk about satsanga, talk of God, talk of Brahman, you become inspired, more excited. And your life flows with the mantra, be good, do good. And as aspiration advances, Shubhecha Vicharana, a constant inquiry process enters your mind. Your mind doesn't take things without thoughtfulness. But this again, easily said, in practice requires sustained sadhana with profound patience. If you continue your sadhana with patience, you will have room, a mystic room created in your mind, where you can always look at a situation with slight objectivity. And the more objectivity, greater is your ability to stay unruffled and more in a position to deal with the situation in a practical way. Otherwise, you deal with situations with anxiety, with mental agitation, with agony, with dejection, with depression. So all these are obstructive to your vichara movement. So Shubhecha opens the door to vichar. And vichar leads to sattva, leads to tanu manasi. Mind that is burdened by load of kleshas, ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, fear of death. Load begins to diminish. And they become just like a big load of big bag of sand. When a camel carrying a big load of sand, rather salt, happens to dip into a lake or a river, the salt simply melts away. The load goes on melting away. So that tanu manasi state. When it has absolutely melted away, then there is sattva-apatti. No matter how things are in the world, all things move in your consciousness like clouds, and you are the sky. If you have come to that state, you become a jivan mukta. Clouds continue, but they are no longer going to scratch you. The world will continue, but it no longer has a deep injury in your soul. Your soul is no longer ordinary soul, pure awareness, Brahman. And the sattva-apatti leads you to asam sakti. Now you are being detached like the sky. That becomes a highlight of your experience. No matter how things are. Patatyangar varshecha vati vapra malayanile. If it is burning embers were to shower, or the breeze laden with sandalwood fragrance, cool breeze blow. This is one of the quotations from the Yoga Vasistha. One who has attained that state of wisdom remains serene, untouched. And asam sakti leads you to padartha bhavana. The whole world experience is called padarth. Any experience that matters to you. The mantra to remove this to you is doesn't matter. Never mind, doesn't matter. If mind and matter, that again is just, when we say matter, mind is included in it. So that matter doesn't matter anymore, it simply disappears. Just like in deep sleep, all problems disappear. Padartha bhavana is a positive counterpart of deep sleep state. And then comes the seventh step, turiya, that is indescribable, absolute revelation of Brahman. So, all these are attained in a progressive way. The realized soul enjoys the supreme bliss of the self, just as the moon floods the sky with gentle light. The firmament of the heart is flooded with the moon of spiritual bliss during the state of enlightenment. This is highlighted what happens to your bhavana in your heart. Feelings in your heart, they bring experiences like cool, soft, gentle, as well as great agitations, fiery, noisy, toilsome. But bhavana in a sage, using poetic language and again scriptural language, described as Sukla Paksha in the northern description of northern path. This, as if your heart has turned into calm sky, and love has blossomed in your heart, love of the self, like this, and waxing into full moon. That's what is the ideal bhavana shuddhi. And that again is attained in a progressive way. The firmament of the heart is flooded with the moon of spiritual bliss during the state of enlightenment. The nature of the self is beyond the reach of the mind. It is neither near nor far. It is experienced by those sages who are endowed with intuitive wisdom. The self is neither the body nor the senses. It is not the pranas, the mind, the vasanas. Now this is another mode of vichar, neti neti. The first state of vichar, yes, 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 I'm the body. But then body is made of subtle elements. So I'm subtle elements. Yes. So it's one process is yes, 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 until you come to big Y, Y-E-S. Another neti, 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 until you come with big zero. Nothing exists. Brahman alone is. It doesn't exist in the form of pranas or intellectual knowledge. It is not in the form of the world. This self is unaffected by fire, wind, water, or the other elements. In Vichar movement, as you create this affirmation and work upon it day by day, Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahyati pavaka. This is Gita quotation. The soul in you, the real soul, fire cannot burn it. The wind cannot dry it. Water cannot drown it. And so forth. All the elements can have no impact. They cannot injure your soul. But your soul, first attention is directed to your soul. Second attention, what is that soul? The first attention, soul, is Brahman reflecting in your mental process. Even from that point of view, you are not lost by the loss of your physical body. Physical body dies, the soul survives, and you will continue to get another embodiment, another embodiment. So, that's little book consolation. But that's not the absolute answer. Absolute fearlessness. That your soul is being reflected sun. The reflected sun is what is what is the reality of the reflected sun? The sun. So your soul is essentially like the sun. If that revelation has come, then imagine what is there to be afraid of. Numerous pots contain different sizes of pot ether. Let me explain that. Now, simple similes are given to help your mind to understand the subtlety of who am I. Think of a pot. We describe pot ether distinct from the bhutakash, the physical sky. But what makes the distinction? Pot. Break the pot ether is neither enhanced nor in any way reduced. Pot ether is the same. Break the pot. But then you are in more complicated state. There is water in your pot. And when you look into the water, you are seeing another reflected ether. So you have to make a distinction between the ether reflected and the ether that is not reflected. Pot has both. You are looking into the sky. Space is reflected space. And pot in itself has its own space, unreflected. Come from reflected state of your concept of I am soul, arising out of your mental state. That's a reflected consciousness. Reflected consciousness must enable you to understand the role of pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is Ghatakash, the ether of the pot. Reflected consciousness is ether reflecting in the water within the jar. There's a big difference between the two. Same word is ether, space. One is a space in your dream. Another is a space in your waking state. So all the different sizes of pot ether, when they are destroyed, the ether continues to be unaltered. In the same way, the self in numerous personalities is unaffected by the death of those bodies. Therefore, O Rama, by the practice of listening, reflection, and meditation, the whole vichara process is a blend of all this, what you have listened to, and based on that, how you are reflecting, and how you are allowing your chitta to be focused on the reality, move away from vikshepa, distractions, to one pointed flow, nididhyasan. Realize this entire universe, including the body, to be nothing but the self. Though performing your duties, continue to be quiescent within yourself. Though perceiving the world, abide in the transcendental glory of the self. All this is verily Brahman. Devoid of characteristics, modifications, gunas, and limitations. All these differentiations that exist in one's consciousness, they are reflections. Pure consciousness is ever the same. Just like all that you dream is illusion. You are always the same person. But in your dream, you have experienced flow of time, a stream of karma, action. You have been involved in performing actions. And you have held on to the illusory notion, I am the doer. Your mind is working with causation. This is the cause and this is the effect. You have worked upon maintaining a condition that is favorable. Worked upon dissolving an adverse situation. You held on to the memories of so many things. All these are essentially Brahman. Think of all the details in your dream. And all this dream is essentially to you. You didn't go anywhere. You spread out in the form of your dream. You became a swan in your dream, soaring high. You became a spider. You became so little like a roach. You became all. So you who are ocean of bliss, and now you come to such an abyss. Time, action, instrument of action, doer, cause, birth, maintenance of a condition, dissolution, memory of the worldly experiences. All these are essentially Brahman. Thus knowing, abide in your essential nature, which is the embodiment of bliss. And we will conclude for today. Om Ram 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 Om Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om. Prayer for shower of Karunamaya Ras grace of God over all, with the blessings of Shakti, Bhakti and Mukti. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukmva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshyama Mritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Nidhamaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Are there any questions tonight?
Pranam Gurudev. Gurudev, you described the cloth of the fabric and going back to threads and elements, and then you came to chitta vrittis, and then chitta, and then chit.
Yes.
So basically the pure
When
consciousness.
chitta becomes free of chitta vrittis, it is nothing but chit.
And then going backward from chitta vrittis, the creation of the objects in the world.
The sequence, as I have already explained, they are not to be held like a mathematical precision, because that itself is a mental limitation, that you always want to see things going one after another. Student is studying a tree in biology, feels bored, going after one thing after another of the tree. The entire tree is at one time But what you are saying is yes, all this is vrittis of the mind. The entire world experience is reduced to vrittis. And vrittis are reduced to chitta. But when the chitta becomes free of mala, vikshepa and avarana, these three apply to your chitta. Impurities, distraction, ignorance. When these are removed and chitta is free of chitta vrittis, then what it results is pure chit, pure consciousness. And that's,
One more
we
question,
want
brother.
pure consciousness to dissolve into something else.
So then, Gurudev, once that state, the projections will stay, but they won't have. But the Gani would see the world as it is, but won't. There will be a
Just
different.
go watch the cinema show. But when you see a terrible vampire coming, you don't run from it.
I have one couple more questions, Gurudev. You talked about ordinary in Sattvapati. You described ordinary soul becoming pure consciousness. So, is that Sattvapati means arrival, appearance of Sattva? Is that the?
That maturity of wisdom comes in stages. One stage perfects itself, just like the autumn season comes with the removal of clouds, but autumn comes in gradual stages. As the clouds remove away, clarity of sky, clarity of the moon. You can make it in many stages, or you make it in one movement. That's up to you. But just to understand that once you have come to a state of clarity, once the sun has started leaking through a cloud, the sun becomes highlighted in the role of cloud and its projections begin to diminish. They don't have much value. But suddenly the entire cloud doesn't disappear. So there is always a gradual movement. But the gradual movement is for spiritual aspirants who want to learn the teaching. For a sage, he is well settled in his essential knowledge. He is not waiting. All this happens automatically. Yeah.
Yeah, one more last question. You described the Bhutakash, Ghatakash, and then reflected Akash within the gut. So how does that? What are the analogs in the life our day to day? So the reflected Akash would be the thoughts and what we see the world.
The reflected Akash is how your mind perceives the space. So when mind is happy, you think everything is spacious. Mind is miserable, you are crunched. So that type of experience of space is Chittakash. And Chidakash is absolute space, the expansion that's unlimited, unrestricted. Chidakash sustains Chittakash. And Chittakash sustains Bhutakash. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.